Oh, fantastic. Hey, this is Rachel. I am calling from Northwest Ukraine at this moment.
Rachel, thank
How
you
are you?
so much for calling. I hope you're okay.
Well, yeah, that's relative, but yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Where should I begin?
Well, I mean, really just start with what has this week been like for you and the people around you?
um, Definitely. In some ways, I'm still stunned. In others, it's been tragic. It's been infuriating. I could say I did not expect this. I'd say really nobody did. And even the, NetSec asshole nerds that are gloating about it, changing the goalposts every other day, I kind of feel like they're getting credit for something they didn't necessarily do either. I've lived in Kyiv for more than 5 years. I lived in Moscow for a while before that as well. And I had not intended to leave the city. In fact, I wanted to stay and kind of be in solidarity with people taking the most of it, even going further east. I've got friends out there who that I wanted to help. Ultimately, after the bombings that took place in strategic points, well, pretty much all throughout the country, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, and speaking with my flatmates in Kyiv and realizing I don't have the skills that I could particularly be good in an urban war zone, and the simplest just to go to their home village in the Northwest, but. So even that has its own challenges, as I think your first guest, Derek, was saying, is that there is targeting from Russia, from Belarus, and even from Transnistria, this little frozen conflict breakaway region of Moldova from coming to the south near Romania. But up here, we are pretty close to Belarus. So it's not... I'm not 100% out, but certainly not like Kyiv, where I've seen a lot of people, where I lived, and just detonations every which way. And then,
I mean, look, having the skills to participate in a war zone, and that should not be what is asked of you. Although I do see that there are a ton of Ukrainian just regular people taking up arms, including
some people that you would not expect, like other hippie pacifist friends of mine that are now, particularly in the case young men can't leave the country. Well, 18 to 60. I mean, not everyone needs to be in a direct military role or combat role, but there are some who are otherwise pacifists that are taking up arms and joining civilian defense controls and patrols, and it's another world we live in. And again, I feel like everything a week ago, even 4 days ago, feels very, very surreal. And
right.
I don't know. Also, as an American here, I really feel my own naivete and ignorance, having, we have not had war on our own soil for like a century and a half. And even many in Western Europe, nobody of combat ages, unless they were like teenagers, is around to see that too. So it's kind of a legacy that I think a lot of Westerners are trying to process, and particularly people that are not nearby. I think it's easier to make into a symbolic term on one level or another in terms of playing with blame, and as opposed to survival strategy. So I'm stunned, really. But yes, sorry, go on.
Yeah, just two questions for you. I mean, One, is there? You talk about how even younger people are a little shocked by it as well, but there has to be some sort of context there and legacy of World War II, of course, that brings up and probably has there's muscle memory in Ukraine for, I would imagine, for World War II, and an understanding that was probably some of what escaped me earlier in the week and still will, because I'm not from there. And if I'm just curious if you saw that and witnessed that as well. And secondly, you mentioned that you're near Belarus in the north. I mean, was everybody so shocked when I think there was a sense that Russia would come in from the east, but when they came in from the north as well, clearly with Belarus's help, what was some of the reaction to that?
I mean, I still feel like the full extent is truly shocking, just because, and yes, people for one way or another are going to talk about NATO. That's another, there's just so many different levels of like philosophical debates versus in-your-face actions. And, Putin's whole time in office, or even you could argue the 90s had their own thing, and any post-Soviet era could argue about like the Russia's legacy of influence and power after the U.S. kind of, stomped on it and so forth, of trying to subjugate and make itself significant by like cheating around the margins and kind of making trouble on the side and just going in and out. And I guess I think most people expected things like that in some form or another that could get hot. And I think a lot of people really expected things to largely stay in and near Donbass, which I have friends down there, and it's been especially rough for them, but they've also been there and done that and seen it all. But yeah, I guess the World War II legacy, and with people saying that like, okay, nobody God wins law exists for a reason. Like the Hitler comparison gets a bit, I don't know, I don't like it. But at the same time, feeling like the people that your grandparents, great grandparents were fighting against suddenly are, the ones at your door. So there's that image. And I guess for the people who want to talk about the Nazi element, yeah, there were some parts of Ukraine that did have, that did have like Axis sympathizers that were of use when they were conquered from the West. And yeah, there's some of that is nurtured, I would even say, by diaspora communities like U.S. and Canada. Operation Paperclip to some extent, and just old Cold War relics that whatever, as long as you're anti-communist, they'll look the other way. There's that little element just in how that functions in Ukrainian politics now. It's pretty minimal. It's mostly just a dysfunctional democracy that's largely dictated by the whims of oligarchs, like many dysfunctional democracies, U.S. included. So
right. Well, any message that you want to get out there for everybody here and who's listening?
Well, let's see. What among, I guess, other things, it's scary, and people, it's going to get ugly, but I don't count Ukraine out just yet. People are, they are tough. They have seen it all. And also, another thing I worry about is conflicts about refugees and Eurocentrism, and that what we're going to see about pitting people from different war zones in different regions against each other. I don't have any answers for that, but it's something I think could get ugly. Maybe something Ronald Reagan might know something about on a legal level of dealing with refugees. So, I could go on. I think I've gone on a lot, though. It's a lot to take in, basically. So.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to call in and speak with us.
Sure.
Matt,
of course.
Matt,
I was just going to say thanks.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah,
sure. And God, I remember talking with Michael about some of this so much. And just 2 years ago at the live show and chatting with him, and maybe seeing about certain people I know out here that to be on TMBS that are still around. If that's a thought, possibly.
Well, that's yes, very sweet and very kind of you to call in. Just please stay safe and
keep us posted.
Don't hesitate to call in next week, and we'll make sure to get you through because you're on the ground, and I really appreciate your perspective.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Shakawi, one of the reasons American progressives and lefties in Ukraine are shocked as much as the last caller is due to a total mistrust of NATO and U.S. government intelligence. To add that to people like you, Hassan, and TYT, the most popular progressive voices totally misread Putin's intentions. In a way, you are responsible for what the poor listener is currently going through in that situation, says Shakawi.
Yeah, let's be very clear about this, which I don't agree with at all. Rachel actually just said, like, nobody really expected this. Like, China didn't expect this. A lot of people didn't expect this, except for these agencies, which have blown their credibility. It's not a mystery why their credibility is blown. It's very obvious why we'd be skeptical of it. So I think, like, it's fair enough to say that we should, come away from this with a awareness that yes, other countries can be bad actors, but there's a certain type of folk that said, like, that tries to meet this with, America's not the only bad guy, because you have to admit, like, stealing from the Afghan treasury in the Iraq war was a giant crime. But then they like to act like if you acknowledge that America is also a bad guy, then you're doing something wrong and siding with Putin. They're two bad guys.